So in this video, we're going to be talking about West Coast Asians versus West Coast Asians. I mean, East Coast or West Coast.
About East Coast Asians versus West Coast Asians. I just wrote, what does that mean?
So if you don't know yet, the Fung Bros are a popular YouTube channel that originally talked about things, and the most popular videos like things Asian girls say, things Asian girls hate, things Asian parents be like, what is an ABG? Why do Asian men struggle so much with dating? And then on the other corner, we have David So, known for his popular comedy shorts, his rants, and as well as all of his other ventures, now known on as an entrepreneur, a foodie, and a whole bunch of other things. But originally, I saw him as the person that reacted to that Alexandra Wallace Asians in the Library rant video.
Oh, Ching Chong Ling Long Ting Tong.
So, in my opinion, these are the two essentially OG YouTubers first on the scene when it came to content creation. But every time I watched a David So video, he always talked smack and hated the Fung Bros, except he would never directly address it. He addressed them as
Those Fang Bros, dude.
the Fang Bros. And we're going to break it down in this video, the two reasons why David So actually dislikes the Fung Bros. So, reason number one is the fact that there is this sense of division, because I can actually agree with this and see why, where a lot of the Fung Bros videos, they make content about East Coast Asians versus West Coast Asians. But the reality is Asians are already so segregated as it is, and if you don't know, there's a lot of interracial hate, or this type of Asian thinks they're superior to this type of Asian. And you're making it worse when you're like, hey, let's separate us even more, man. Let's go from East Coast Philly Asian to West Coast Sacramento, LA, the Bay type of Asian. But for me, that never made sense because I'm Canadian and I would never call myself a Vancouver Asian guy, and I talked to someone as a Toronto Asian guy. No, I'm like, oh, you're Asian, you're from Toronto, that's cool, man.
A video about East Coast Asians versus West Coast Asians. I just wrote, what does that mean?
This ain't a Fung Bro, bro.
This ain't a Fung Bro, bro.
Yeah.
Like fucking video like that.
Yep.
Do I look like a fucking loser to you, dude? No.
It's that time?
It's like, what the fuck? Like, it's such a dumb thing. I hate it when fucking Asian people do shit like that, dude. It's so fucking annoying, dude. It's like, Asian, this person versus that Asian. Like, what does that mean, dude?
Yeah, why are you creating that?
What are you creating? It doesn't even exist. You're creating these subcategories that don't fucking exist.
It makes us look bad.
It makes us look terrible, dude.
And it gives
I never brought it to the point where I would classify the type of Asian that I am and then break that down even further to the suburb, to the area that I am from. I would call myself a first generation Asian Canadian, right? But I would not further deduce that to something that is more based on culture and where you grew up in your neighborhood. So that's where I think these videos essentially do things more harm than they actually do good. Another issue that I have with these type of videos is when the Fung Bros talk about Asian men and their struggles of dating, there isn't a source of credibility or social proof of where is your track record and how you stand as a person when it comes to your own dating life or your own profile. Because if you want to be a channel that talks about why Asian men struggle so much, you yourself should either have anecdotal experience or, hey, have proof of, hey, you are in a loving relationship, or maybe you don't talk about that. So a lot of the issue of these videos is that it spotlights a certain people, white people, at the top. Why Asian guys can't get X amount of, this type of race. But the reality is what you're doing is you're making things, it's one of those one step forward, two steps back type of thing. And this is another point that I actually agree with what David has to say. And then we have Exhibit B, where David So talks about an interesting love story where they actually saw the Fung Bros because they have a friend of a friend. And the way that the Fung Bros approached their friend was in a very creepy way where it was just really socially awkward. And according to him, this has happened more than one occasion. And initially when I heard this story, it made me really dislike the Fung Bros as well.
Then he goes, yo, have you heard of us on YouTube? And she goes, no, not really. Right. And she goes, I haven't heard of you on YouTube, whatever, right now. But she kind of knew who they were. But right off the jump, it was already a terrible line. Right. And he's like, yo, this is who I am, blah, blah, blah. You should check us out. This is like, maybe you've heard of this video. It has like X amount of millions of views. So that's how they're trying to impress women, by showing how dope they are. And then afterwards, she rejects him. And he goes, why? It's because you don't like Asian guys or what?
So whether or not these things were fact or fiction, I don't see why David So would make up random stories about, other YouTubers, especially publicly, and have them peppered into content wherever it's on someone else's channel or his channel alone. But what I would like to see is having these two YouTubers on a podcast and duking out, which will probably never happen. But the fact that, one, you have 34, 35, 36-year-old men talking about each other online and not really addressing the issue. Maybe they have behind the scenes and they don't do it, on social media. But I've always had a thing where when it comes to social media content is like, you need to, not in an altruistic way, but in a way where you make content that does not put other people down. You raising people up and you're giving them value, right? So never once has the Fung Bros addressed this topic or criticism. And, maybe they should one day. But I made this video because I needed to get this off my chest, man. No, it's just more of a social experiment where I'm like, hey, man.
Let's make this the Asian drama.
As content creators and looking at the Fung Bros content, like I initially watched them for their food content. But as they slowly transition to pretty much any mainstream topic now with the word Asian in it, it's an interesting niche and a tricky one to talk about in a way where you are, one, talking about your own story and backstory, and two, without coming off as you are the know-it-all. Come off as you are the expert.
Why do we order so much?
Man, because I'm trying to be like Arnie Fang and Danny Fang.
Even for me, where I make content where it's the title, the Asian, it's tricky, where it's like I'm also trying to put off a different spin or a different twist, my take on being Asian in a American, Canadian, Australian, British type of society where one, right, it's a culture clash. And understanding how do you, one, keep your roots, at the same time assimilate to popular culture. So whether or not these stories by David So is alleged, real, or not real, it's always interesting as YouTubers and viewers to know how and who someone is behind the camera. I turn on the camera and you see me or I give you a projection of how I want you to view me. But when I turn off the record button, do you really know what's going on? And that's the same thing with, you hear these little anecdotes from David and telling how the Fung Bros are like this and this. It makes you really question, like, what is real and who can you trust? And just like anything, man, FTX and financial YouTubers, you can't really trust anyone. But maybe we'll talk that in a future video. But this was my little twist and little take on this little YouTube drama. And now you guys also know what I know. So I don't have to talk about this to myself all the time. You guys let me know. What do you think about this topic? Is David just trying to be like gas people up? They're just trying to like talk smack and be funny? Or is there actually merit where these stories and it changes the way that I think about their content and how you can watch someone and have that type of influence on someone from my own? I'm trying to be neutral about it, but at the same time, it's like, it makes me not want to watch a certain YouTuber's content anymore because of these so-called allegations and stories. But as the viewer, you have the ability to make a judgment, right? Where, hey, here are the stories, here's the type of content that I have made, and I don't necessarily like their content, but at the same time, it's like, just because I don't like them, it doesn't mean that I'm forced to watch their content. Just like no one watches this YouTube video, my YouTube channel anymore. Anyways, that's enough ranting. This was a little different topic. I am still experimenting on this channel. I'll talk about this, guys, in a future video. And what do you want to see next? Let me know in the comments below. And holidays are just around the corner. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And yeah, man. My name is Peter. You're watching Broke the Habit. And I'm BTH Peter. It's all I'm trying to say is, man, it's yellow and yellow hate, man. We're all in this together, man.